This is the time, this is the place, and this is FC3 Monkey Business, your one-stop shop for everything geeky. And since anything is geeky, if you love it enough, you never know what you're going to get. I am your host, this is C, and this week we'll be talking about John, we'll be talking to, not about. We'll be talking about with him.
Yeah.
To John Kovalic, cartoonist, illustrator, and writer, best known for his work on the webcomic Dork Tower and his work on games such as Munchkin, Chez Geek and Apples to Apples. After that, stick around for our Everyday Heroes shout-out and our question of the week. In the studio with me, as always, the legend, Billy DeTore.
Hello, Chris.
What's going on, big man?
Not much.
Yeah?
Same old stuff. Going to see Black Panther soon. And
Nice.
So
Caught it last night myself. I think, Tanya, you've seen it
I saw
too
it
now,
Friday,
haven't you?
yes.
I will tell you, and Becca's in the studio with us today. Say hi, Becca.
Hello.
It's okay. And then on the phone, and then we're going to go back to talking about Black Panther. But on the phone with us is producer Sherry, who's already shaking her head going, oh, my God, he's off the script already.
You can't herd that cat. He's too big.
Can't herd that cat. It's, yeah. I'm not as big as a Black Panther, mind you, but, well, actually, no.
Well, you might be.
Chadwick Boseman's not a small man to begin with. And then with Sherry is the irrepressible Monkey Wench. Hello, Monkey Wench.
Hi.
And Mr. Chris. How you doing there, sir?
Yes, fine. How are you?
Oh, I'm having more fun than I conceivably know what to do with right now, I got to tell you. But yeah, saw it last night, saw Black Panther with the kids last night. We did our usual, hey, let's just go see a movie, notwithstanding it was like 10:30 at night
You're
already.
5 inches taller than he is.
I'm 5 inches taller than Chadwick Boseman.
Yes, he's
still
6
not
feet.
a small man.
No. Oh, man.
And he's a great
Damn.
presence on screen.
Yes.
It was hands down just a fantastic movie. So
We'll get into Black Panther on another podcast.
yeah, because we're going to be talking. I think we're all going to go. The podcast crew, we're all going to go see it together next weekend, right? And then we're going to do a thing. So we'll talk more about that movie coming up in a future podcast, future episode.
Because it gives people a chance to actually go see it before we start talking about it.
I'm just going to tell you though, I highly
gonna have to see it
recommend
again.
it. It's phenomenal. What's that, Chris?
I said we'll also talk about that thing, too.
That thing you do.
oh, I love that movie.
Really?
No, you said we were going to do a thing.
We're going to do a thing. We're going to do a thing, and then another thing. Move the thing. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm
boy.
still channeling my inner Princess Bride script.
That was a while ago.
That was a while ago, but I'm off. I'm off and running. I don't know what I'm talking about half the time. So how is everybody doing right now?
Sherry is definitely cringing.
Well, that's fine because
I'm fine.
She's
because
2.5 hours away.
Sherry's reach is long.
I'm waiting for. Well, I won't get the text message to smack you because she's currently
my
on
God.
the phone.
I will tell you. Here's what.
Actually, it is possible to text message
Yeah, I know.
and talk on the phone at the same time.
Here's the thing.
So-
Let me explain to the listeners why this is an inside joke all of a sudden is because just recently we
Last
had
weekend.
the mini-con. Last weekend for us, but it might have been a couple of weekends ago by the time you hear this. We had our mini-con at the Grease Ridge Center Mall. So it's the second one.
Yep.
And Sherry and Chris and Alana could not be there. And
missed them.
I forget what it was that started the conversation, but in a text message between Sherry and I, she said, don't start with me, mister. My reach is long. And I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Then your daughter gets a text.
So all of a sudden, throughout the course of the weekend, people start walking up to me going, Sherry's reach is long. And I get smacked across the back of the shoulder.
That's funny.
Right? And I'm like, what the heck? And, so she...
I just smacked him for the heck of it.
Oh, I
and
know.
He goes, "Except for Sherry."
Let's be fair. In my defense, I only contacted a couple people. There were many people who did it.
There was a
all
bandwagon
on their
effect.
own.
People started understanding that this was a thing.
You should not have introduced me to your friends.
Yeah, well...
They like me.
Yes, well,
They like me.
you're very likable. But here's the thing. We're not even talking about the piece de resistance of this.
Oh.
I bitched her out. I bitched her out at one point. I'm like, this is getting ridiculous because I'm getting smacked from
You're
like
gonna have to
dozens
push
of
the
people.
button on Spreaker.
Right? Oh, please. That's the worst thing I've ever said on this podcast. And so here we go. So Sunday comes along, and Sherry and I had already talked about this, and I'm like, wow, you got to calm these people down. This was getting a little ridiculous. So halfway through Sunday, the Power Rangers, it's Kevin Duhaney and I can't remember, Jeff Perazzo.
Yeah.
The Power Rangers who came to sign autographs are walking to their panel, and Kevin Duhaney, who had played the Blue Ranger, walks over to the FC3 command table where all the bosses were hanging out, keeping an eye on things, and he reaches out, gives me a handshake, and he looks at me and goes, "There's no power in the verse that can stop Sherry."
Yeah.
And I'm just staring at him for a second. I'm like, my eyes go wide, and everybody around me is dying because Sherry got a Power Ranger to do it, and I'm just staring. I'm like, I had to bow to the master at that point.
I saw the Facebook message that Sherry had sent to Brian because I was on Brian's laptop that Sunday morning. So I saw the message and I sent her a message. I'm like, you do realize what you're getting into. And she's like, oh, yeah, I'm fine. And she's like, don't you dare say a word. I'm like, nope. I'm like, I like my life.
My guy, I even texted her. I'm like, you got a Power Ranger to do this?
Yeah, Brian went and
I bowed before the master. And I'm like, oh, my God. That blew my mind.
Wait until young Amy Pond does it.
See, there you go. Stop giving her. Don't give her ideas.
Send that message to Heather now.
Don't give her ideas. I've got plenty of NPCs in Sherry's D&D game I can kill off.
Eric Avari.
Eric Avari, what about him? Oh, seriously? You know what would be best? See if we're going to take this to an extreme. Is Eric Avari's dog, and you just tie a little note to his collar and have the dog walk up to me at that point. So but
Becca's losing it already.
Sherry's reaches low.
But Sherry's going to be at FC3 in June.
Yep.
So Sherry's.
I'll be able to do it on my own.
Got overwhelmed there for a second. But she's going to be at FC3 in June, so I don't know how likely that these
There's
shenanigans
no power
will.
in the verse can stop Sherry that weekend.
I guarantee
you'll have to hide.
I'm trying to get Dolly to do some video of behind the scenes stuff. Right, I can guarantee there's probably going to be at least a few minutes where Sherry and I are chasing each other through the hallways. So we're going to have one of those boffer swords.
What shenanigans am I going to miss?
Shenanigans.
Can I mention something funny that happened to me at MiniCon last week, or just something I thought was kind of neat?
Tell me.
I was at one of the booths, one of the merch tables. A gentleman from it was 13 Verse Comics, and I was looking through the comics, and I happened to just glance up at the guy running the table, and I noticed he had a logo on the back of his shirt. That there's a podcast I like called Tell 'em Steve Dave. It's two guys from the TV show Comic Book Men, Kevin Smith's No Comic Book Store TV show, and also a guy from Impractical Jokers, the show on True TV.
I've seen it.
So they have a podcast called Tell 'em Steve Dave. It's one of my favorites, and I have a bunch of merch from that show or from that podcast, T-shirts and whatever. So I look up, and this guy's got the logo from the podcast on the back of his T-shirt, and I look at that's the Four Color Demons logo. I have that shirt. I'm wearing that shirt.
Oh my God!
I had a sweatshirt on, but I go, excuse me. Can you turn around? Yeah, that's the shirt on. It's a Tell 'em Steve Dave shirt that has a bunch of inside jokes from the podcast. I go, and they call their fans ants.
Okay.
And supposedly, if you ever run into another ant, you put your two fingers up on your head and you give them an ant.
Did you guys do that?
Antennas.
Did you do it?
So I go, is that a Tell 'em Steve? Yeah. I go, yeah. And I give him the ant sign. He goes, oh my God. They always say that hundreds of thousands of people listen to this show, and I've never met another ant.
That's
I go,
amazing.
not only that, and I lift up my sweatshirt. I'm wearing the same shirt.
That is amazing.
And we became friends.
There you go.
So I made a new friend.
That
thanks
is phenomenal.
To FC3 MiniCon.
Someone else into your tribe.
Yes, exactly.
I love it.
Yes. If I am ever anywhere, this is for anybody who is listening to this, if I am ever anywhere that has, and I have wearing a shirt with a fandom on it that you like, that is blanket permission to come and talk to me.
Absolutely. I'm the same way. I really am. If like people will start when I'm wearing my Doctor Who hoodie that I wear to FC3, people will see it and they're like, "Oh my God, a Doctor Who hoodie! That's so awesome!" And they'll start talking to me about Doctor Who, and it's like, "Okay."
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm
yeah.
good.
If you're ever wearing anything,
I'm good.
I have a fandom on today.
You do? What do you have on today?
I do.
Oh, you got your Princess Leia shirt on,
And my Rebel sweatshirt.
and your Rebels. Oh, that looks like a comfy hoodie.
It is.
What size is that? I'm just saying.
I don't know.
Probably not big enough for me.
I've got Mystery Science Theater 3000 on today.
I got to tell you, after
it's a unknown size because I cut the tag out.
Oh, I see.
Chances are it's an extra large.
I think
There
it
you
was
go.
a small.
It's a small.
Pretty sure it's a small.
It's a pretty small
It's a
hint,
small?
hint, nudge,
I
nudge.
don't know. I don't know.
Here, let me try it. Let me see it. Hang on a second. Oh, this is not nearly as heavy as I thought it was.
No, it's nice and soft though.
Oh yeah, that fits. Okay, cool. All right.
Damn,
Good.
I lost my sweatshirt.
To me, so that's turnabout because you have a couple of mine.
That doubles as a scarf.
There you go.
Sherry, he took my sweatshirt.
What? You gave it to me.
No, you said let me try it on. I didn't give it to you.
Well, that's okay.
There's a difference.
You're wearing his bra.
Never mind.
It didn't fit me anymore. So, all right, here you go. You can have your sweatshirt
Okay,
back.
so are we
Okay.
going to go to our
We're going to do our thing?
The thing that Chris wants you to do.
What's the thing?
Go to our first break.
We're going to go to our first break?
Okay.
We're going to do that. We have a break. That's phenomenal. And when we come back, we're going to have John Kovalic. Okay, and we're back, and we are with John Kovalic. John is a cartoonist, illustrator, and writer. He is best known for his Dork Tower comic
Not to
book.
confuse with the thing Dark Tower, which is something totally different.
Well, I was watching that the other day, so I think it's in my brain. The Dork Tower comic book, comic strip, and webcomic, and other humorous work set in and about the fantasy role-playing game genre. He has illustrated board and card games for several companies, including Steve Jackson Games, notably the Munchkin card game, and Chez Geek. John is a co-founder and co-owner of Out of the Box Publishing. He is also the company's art director and designer of the party game What Do You Know, as well as the illustrator of Apples to Apples. John,
really?
Thank you very Yep. Seriously.
Now you got my attention.
Now we got
Billy
Billy.
missed that earlier when we were talking about
Now
that.
we got a Billy.
Okay.
John, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate you spending some time with us here on Monkey Business.
You're very welcome.
We were having a great little conversation before
about gaming.
About gaming, because even in our advanced ages, we are still gaming geeks, and I love that. That's a great thing. John, how long have you been playing for?
Oh, honestly, 76.
Okay.
I grew up I was born in England.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can tell from the accent.
Oh yeah, I could tell. Definitely very thick.
Manchester, me and Morrissey. Anyway, my family moved back and forth across the Atlantic, and when I went back to school in England when I was 10, and in the UK, a lot of schools or a lot of gaming clubs, and at the time, it was mostly historical miniatures. So I was painting up Airfix models and Airfix soldiers, and then I discovered that you could buy rules for these things and play games with them, and that was magic to me. And we were living in the county of Somerset, which is down in the southwest of England, and every now and then my parents would drive us up to London just for the day, and there was a game store in one of the outlying boroughs of London called Hammersmith, and there was a game store called Games Workshop.
Okay.
The very first Games Workshop store, where it was a real game store at the time. Not that it's not a real game store now, but they had other things apart from, this was well before Warhammer and Warhammer 40K came out. So they were a general gaming store, and that's where I discovered this little tiny white box of 3 small booklets called Dungeons & Dragons.
And the rest is history.
I was not actually in at the beginning, but in pretty soon after the beginning, and it blew my 15-year-old mind.
Oh, I'm sure. I got into it. I was given the red box in 82. And I didn't get into my first full game until like 87.
I didn't start until 92.
Yeah, so I mean, we're relative latecomers in comparative speaking, but yeah, it's.
You've been doing this 30 years now, so that's not.
We're in there. We're in the trenches.
Yeah.
I just have to remember not to get too attached to my character, because Chris will kill it.
I'm the DM currently, so that's why she's
right,
constantly.
Sherry?
Or don't get attached to NPCs either.
Yeah.
Sherry is realizing
dragons.
I have a little bit of a George R.R. Martin streak right now. Oh, you like that character?
No.
Oops.
See, I'm DMing my group, and I started getting back into DMing with 5th edition, which I love. I mean, I've always enjoyed Pathfinder, and I enjoyed playing 3.5, and but it's just nothing I ever would have wanted to have run. There's lots of
chunky.
bells and whistles and fidgety bits. Whereas 5th edition is also great in a different way, and so I've been having a huge amount of fun running it for my players. Nobody's died yet. We're still running through the Lost Mines of Phandelver.
Okay. Which is
honestly,
the opening starter kit.
Really good group. And I will be as devastated as any player when one of the characters finally dies.
I'm with you on that one. I don't like killing PCs. I've done it on a couple of occasions, but don't look at me like that, Tanya. How many people have died when I was the DM?
I can't.
The nice thing about 5th edition is it's very easy on the death. I mean, they give you a lot of chances not to die.
Right, they do. You really have to mess a few rolls up in succession, and a lot of circumstances have to fit together.
Yeah, it's gotten close, but so far everybody's made it through. So
I've also I've thrown another a little monkey wrench into the works where in the world they're playing in right now is a custom build, one that I've been tinkering with for about 30 years. I started creating this game world back when Greyhawk people were running Greyhawk, and one of the nuances of it is that resurrection magic is nearly impossible to find. So if your character dies, guess what? You're dead. You're not coming back. So it's made the characters kind of be very careful about how they approach certain situations because they know that I can't just go to the local cleric and get erased dead.
Yeah, I definitely think I'll be handling it similarly, especially with the characters are still 3rd level. I've been they've been leveling up at a much slower rate than I think.
I was noticing that.
Suggests. Mike is one of the designers of 5th edition. He's actually the head of the team.
Mike Merles?
Yeah, and he suggests leveling up every 4 to 6 hours of play, I think. And when I heard that, it's like, oops, I hope my players do not hear that.
Yeah, I know. We're actually going to be interviewing Jeremy Crawford in March. So we're
nice.
We're going to get an opportunity to pick his brain about some things. I was just realizing we play every other Sunday, so it's 2 times a month. And we've been playing this particular campaign for a year, and the characters are now averaging 5th, 6th level. So I'm like, okay, I'm wondering if I'm right on pace at the moment. So.
We play once a month, so your pace is probably similar because right now most of the characters are moving up to 3rd level.
Okay.
But, this comes from my experience playing 1st edition.
Right.
Back in school. And, back then, it's like, oh, my goodness, you worked for every frickin' level.
Yeah, you did.
You didn't just
you did.
the first goblins you came across, and all of a sudden, whoopee, I'm 2nd level.
Ding.
Kids these days, I tell you what.
I know. And it was this love for D&D that led to the central topic of our conversation today, 20 years of Dork Tower.
Yes, this is the official 20-year celebration of Dork Tower.
Oh, man.
I've never felt so old in my life.
When you first started drawing it, were you just drawing it for yourself and the gang at the table?
No, actually. What happened was back in, I was going to do the math. No, back 20 years ago, I'd left gaming for about 10 years.
Oh, wow, okay.
I didn't have a group. I had just gone through college. And sort of, made a couple of half-hearted stabs to introduce people to role-playing games, and it didn't really take. So for about a good 10 years, I was still buying games, I was, still reading games, but I didn't really have a group. Then I started getting back with a group of gamers here in Madison, Wisconsin. Actually, the people who run Pegasus Games.
Oh, wow.
One of the great little game stores. So that was a really good group to get in with. And we started doing, we had weekly games back then, luxury.
Yeah, I know, seriously.
And we were playing everything. So we played D&D, we were playing a lot of Call of Cthulhu. I love Call of Cthulhu. I was bringing Traveller into the mix.
Okay.
Traveller has always been one of my favorite games. We were playing... I'm blanking on the name. The Weird West game.
Oh, Boot Hill?
Deadlands.
Deadlands, okay.
And,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and Space 1889. And so I was getting back into gaming. I was also working for the local newspaper, the Wisconsin State Journal, as a feature writer and a cartoonist. I was doing editorial cartoons for them. And I convinced them, like we live in Madison, that's about an hour and a half from Milwaukee, and I convinced the paper that Gen Con in Milwaukee was a big enough Wisconsin story, I should cover it. And so they sent me to Gen Con for like 2 or 3 years on their dime. And I was slowly getting back into gaming, into the whole scene. I was talking with companies. I was, doing some cartooning, doing some reviews for some zines at the time. And I started doing single-panel cartoons for a magazine called Shadus, which was around back then. Very good general role-playing gaming magazine. And they also ran the Knights of the Dinner Table comic.
Oh, my God. Okay, I remember that one.
Yeah, and that is still around and going strong.
Yep.
But this is when Knights of the Dinner Table, Charlie Blackburn left the company, and he took Knights of the Dinner Table with him to Kenzer and Company.
Mm-hmm.
And the editor of Shadis back then, DJ Trindle, asked me at Gen Con, could you come up with a comic strip for us? And I said, sure, absolutely. And as I was walking out the door of Gen Con, I was thinking to myself, what the hell am I going to do?
There you go. Okay. What did I just get myself into?
I had been doing a daily comic strip that had been syndicated briefly around the U.S. called Wildlife for Chronicle Features. And Carson the Muskrat was one of the characters in that. He was the main character in that comic strip. And so I thought about taking all of the old Wildlife characters and bringing them into the new strip. And I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to kind of come up with something totally new. And I sort of went back to the basics. When I talk to schools, when I talk to kids, I tell them just to start, from the basics, draw a shape and make something out of that shape. So I did that myself, and I drew a square, a triangle, and a circle. And the square, if you go to Dork Tower, Igor has got kind of a square face, Matt's got kind of a triangular face, and Ken has got kind of a circular face. So right away, I have the three characters. But yeah, the very first strips were definitely straight from my gaming group. Especially, I was running a lot of GURPS at the time. The Steve Jackson games, role-playing game, the generic universal role-playing system.
Yep, I have dabbled with it myself over the years.
Oh, I loved that. So a lot of people think the early Dork Tower strips were based on Dungeons & Dragons, whereas, in fact, they were GURPS 3rd edition.
Okay.
But yeah,
there's some trivia for you.
Taking my tabletop experiences, especially running the games back then, I quickly came to identify with Matt, who was the dungeon master of the group in the comic strip.
Mm-hmm.
And having the other players destroy absolutely everything he's worked for, that's become kind of a trope these days. But back then, there weren't nearly as many gaming comics. There were very, very few of them, and so that was my shtick, was having the characters just absolutely ruin every single campaign Matt would run.
I see that all the time.
People can relate to that. So go.
Oh yeah, I see it all the time. My friend Randy is one of our main DMs. It happens all the time for him. He lays out this basically lays out the banquet, and we just eat dessert. It's that kind of.
We go the opposite direction.
Yeah, or I'll create this vast and complicated maze, and they find a way to plow straight through it. Bust this wall, bust this wall, bust this wall. Okay.
Us?
Yeah, you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Evan.
Yep.
Evan Tar Rules Bender is basically. we have a friend at our table. His name's Evan, and constantly when he tries to get something done,
he doesn't read the blah blah blah.
He does not read the fine print of the things that he's trying to do. So it's.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So Randy the DM has called him Evan Tar Rules Bender.
Yep. That's his stage name.
I love it.
And we got everyone at the table to actually call him that.
We all do.
Oh, that's always a bad sign.
Every game that he's in.
I knew one of the characters, one of my players who I was playing with back in college, was doomed. He was a barbarian, and as soon as the nickname Gonad the Barbarian, character was
Gonad?
He's Gonad the Barbarian. I've traveled. I was at Rudicon, which is a gaming convention here at one of our local colleges.
Was it RIT or
RIT? It's RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, and I was in a party with Fubar the Barbarian, and so Fubar, Gonad, they're probably in the same clan.
Yes, exactly.
We had a friend that would name it like Eep Off the Gra.
Yeah.
And the name was
not the most feared clan.
Yeah.
Yes.
My question is, does making gaming as your living, does that take away from the fun of actually just playing? Do you ever feel that it's
not at all?
Good.
In fact, the problem with it is you tend not to have a lot of time for gaming.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the running jokes in the industry. So I've been in the industry part-time and then full-time, essentially, for the last 20 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And no, you still love the gaming. You just want more time for it after hours. I would love it. I would love to get more gaming in. I would love to run my D&D campaign once every 2 weeks instead of once a month. I would love to be able to make every single session for Board Games and Beer, which is a little get-together at some of the bars that's been organized.
That's great.
So I take it you go through a gaming withdrawal.
Yes, yeah. It's the difference is, gaming is no longer really my hobby. So when I'm playing, when I'm running 5th edition, when I'm playing a board game that somebody else has designed, I tend to be thinking, okay, how would I have done this? Or, wow, that's incredibly clever. I could never have done this. Mm-hmm. So you approach a game somewhat differently. I'll get blown away by the mechanics of especially a board game or a miniatures game. I just played for the first time Blood Rage, the Cool Minis or Not board game, the Viking-themed one. And oh my goodness, what a fantastic game. It's beautiful. Just so well designed, and it plays so quickly and so smoothly. And it looks like a very complex game, but it's not.
And that's Blood Rage, you said?
A much simpler game like Camel Up, which is a hilarious fun. It's one of the games I use to introduce non-gamers to board gaming. Every time you play, it's a little bit different. It's very unpredictable. But yeah, both cartooning and gaming have become my jobs, but they are still really fun. If I can sit down, I would just as soon be sketching on my iPad as pretty much doing anything else still these days.
And I think that's the equation that we're trying to solve here is how can we make gaming our everyday job. That would be amazing.
It's worth striving for, let me tell you.
I'm all in on that idea.
And then it's tremendously fun. It does get tiring. I mean, there are a lot of conventions you got to travel to. This is going to sound. I know people listening to this are probably going to want to punch me in the face, but I went to Europe 7 times last year.
Aww.
And it's great. It's a huge privilege.
Yeah, but it's probably
honestly,
tiring.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, that's a lot of plane time, and that's.
Yeah. Oh yes. Thank you, Delta Silver Medallion level.
Oh boy.
Well, just like when we had our little mini-con last weekend, just like Monday and Tuesday, I was exhausted. And that's not even doing much.
We have two types of conventions that we throw, John. We have our big annual Flower City Comic-Con that we usually do in the spring or summer. Yep. And that's like that's like a lifetime achievement award to pull that weekend off. And then we will do one or two what we call mini-cons where we're in one of the local malls here where we do a little slice of what we do at the big show. So it's more than just a regular toy and collectible show. We have a gaming area. We have the guests and whatnot, and that will still drain the heck out of you too.
Yeah, absolutely. So. But it's a fun kind of exhaustion at the end of it.
It is.
I mean, there are far worse jobs to have and far worse tasks to have.
Amen to that, my friend. And then I'm looking at my notes here, and I see that 20 years of Dork Tower, which we've been talking about, but then 15 years of Munchkin.
Yeah, actually now it's 16 going on 17.
Oh,
so
boy.
Munchkin celebrated its 15th anniversary last year.
Okay.
And that's been a hugely fun ride. I mean, being able to work on a game with Steve Jackson himself. When I first was getting into gaming back in the late 70s, he was putting out these little micro games. Ogre and GEV both started as these tiny, tiny little games. And I loved them. So when he asked me to illustrate, first I illustrated Chez Geek for Steve Jackson games, which wasn't his design. But then he asked me to illustrate this game he was working on called Munchkin, and I was over the moon. Holy cow. Like, working with one of the greats in gaming like that is the sort of thing it still makes my head spin, honestly.
I'm looking at the actual page for Munchkin, and it says, go down in the dungeon, kill everything you meet, backstab your friends, steal their stuff, grab the treasure, and run. It's like a normal gaming night.
Well,
exactly.
not with our current party, but we've had parties in the past. Like when we were playing.
But with none of the prep time, so that's why it's so popular.
So I'm looking.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Cher.
Okay, John. We first heard about Munchkin through the comic strip Something Positive.
Yes.
Randy Milhouse.
Yes.
And I know that there was a card that was put into Munchkin based on his comic. Did you draw that?
Yes. There was. And I cannot remember what that one was.
It was the Redneck Tree.
Yeah, that's right. That was in either the second or third Munchkin expansion, I believe.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if you did that expansion because that's where we first heard about the game and became, oh my God, we need to get this because we've been fans of something positive since the beginning.
Nice.
So
yeah, that's a great
that's also how we found you.
I don't read a lot of those sorts of web strips because I don't want to accidentally steal anything from them.
Yeah.
I read a joke there and then recycle it as my own later, which is actually one of the drawbacks of this job because there are a lot of great strips out there I would love to read on a daily basis and just love to keep up with. Mm-hmm. And I just can't because I will find myself recycling a joke of my own, like 2 years or 10 years after I've made the joke. I will go through the archives and I will realize, like, oh my gosh, I already did that, and there I did it again. So I don't want to do that to anybody else's material. If there is a joke, it's like I want some kind of deniability. It's like, oh no, that was just we both came up with that idea. Maybe I got it later than you, but yeah, Randy's great, and I draw most of Munchkin still. There's just too much Munchkin. I wouldn't possibly have the time to draw everything. Mm-hmm. I've drawn over 5,000 Munchkin cards.
Oh my God. And I'm looking at the Munchkin site, and I'm just like, oh my God, there's 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 6.5 terrible tombs.
Yes. I hate drawing those dungeons, by the way. They take so long, the dungeon cards. I don't hate them. They do take a long time. But, for example, like Munchkin Shakespeare, I finished up last year. That was a really nice set, which was Kickstarted, and it ended up earning close to $350,000 on Kickstarter.
Oh, my God. That's awesome.
Munchkin is translated into well over a dozen other languages. I want to say 19, but I don't, I'm not entirely sure, but I travel. I get invited to conventions all over the world. I went to Poland and Brazil in the last couple of years. I go to England and Italy all the time. Germany, I get over to Germany quite a bit. There's an Australian convention. But it's strange to me because so much of Munchkin is based on puns. And Steve comes up with some, and Andrew Hackert as well now, who's the Munchkin czar. They come up with some amazing puns, and you can take that, whichever way you wish, depending on your love of puns or not.
We have somebody who usually sits with us when we podcast record, and he's we'll say notorious, not famous, but notorious for puns.
Yes.
He's not a pun master yet, but he's getting there.
You'd like to think he is.
Yeah. But, considering how much of Munchkin to me is just, the humor is pun-based, the fact that you've got German, Czech, Russian, Japanese, Chinese, Korean, I believe, Yiddish editions, is Portuguese, Spanish, obviously. It's just crazy. It's wonderful. It's absolutely amazing. I can be at a convention in Poland, and I can draw somebody the Duck of Doom, and you look up, and it's just made their entire day. They're beaming, and being able to do something like that is such a huge privilege. Doing something that can make people happy, that can get their minds off of things for just a little bit.
It's really the payoff, isn't it? That's why we do the things we do.
It's a worldwide thing. Apples to Apples was huge in the U.S. It sold millions of copies. But it wasn't this worldwide hit that Munchkin has become.
Gotcha. And then Apples to Apples kind of got supplanted by that ominous thing that came in behind it.
Cards Against Humanity?
Which is intern Becca's favorite game of all time. Oh, see.
I've seen some stuff with that game.
Back when, so Out of the Box Publishing is no longer around. They closed up shop a couple of years ago.
Okay.
I actually we sold Apples to Apples to Mattel, about 10 years ago. And Mattel bought Apples to Apples from us and a couple of other games. So it was weird when that first happened, because I realized Apples to Apples was on its way to becoming a real pop cultural hit, and I wanted to be along for the entire ride.
Mm-hmm.
And once Mattel bought it, it's like, don't get me wrong, Mattel basically backed up the money truck. And, my daughter's got a college fund now, so that's great.
There you go.
But whenever I'd see Apples to Apples in the store after Mattel bought it, I felt like, running into an ex-girlfriend who was with her new boyfriend who was much more handsome and much wealthier.
Awkward.
But no, we made a conscious decision back with Apples to Apples not to protect the game mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, for example, the tapping cards in Magic actually was protected. It was a mechanic that you could not use. I don't know what the legal status of that still is, because there have been some cases that have decided that you cannot actually protect game mechanics like you can other intellectual property.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, we made the decision that we were not going to try to get a patent for the judge mechanic in Apples to Apples.
Okay.
And as a result, the mechanic was out there. Many games use it. Many games use it.
Mm-hmm. And
I think it's just been good for gaming. At least for general sort of high street gaming. Before Apples, most of the games, you would go through Target or Walmart or wherever, and most of the games you would see on the shelves were trivia games.
Mm-hmm.
And if you like trivia, that's fantastic. If you don't, you're kind of screwed. But now there are so many really amazing games out there which kind of use the mechanic one way or another, and people are using the mechanic in different ways. And I think that's also led, at least on a little part, it's led to the whole boom of having really great, interesting games on the shelves of Target or Walmart or Barnes & Noble. Have got their own section. And Barnes & Noble actually were the company that led the way. They had these wonderful gaming sections well before anybody else did, any of the other high street, they call them high street stores in the UK, I guess big box stores.
Okay.
Is what they're called here in the U.S. And it's now at the point where I walked into the local Walgreens the other day, just yesterday, and I saw that they had Munchkin Grim Tidings on the shelves, which is a product we produced just for Walgreens. And that was just ridiculous. So, yeah, it's been, compared to where gaming was 20 years ago when Apples to Apples first started, because it was a game that changed gaming, and it's really nice, even though, I don't have anything to do with it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And, Mattel's got it, and they've taken the apple and run with it. But it was really, really nice to be part of a game that actually literally changed gaming.
That is cool.
That was very, very cool.
That is amazing. You mentioned your daughter in the college fund, and Sherry's notes here has daughter's diorama. So I'm going to put those A plus B together and ask you what this is all about, your daughter's diorama.
My daughter is wonderful. She is 9 years old at the moment, and she has grown up with her dad as a gamer.
Okay.
And so she has grown up with me drawing Munchkin cards. But anyway, she is studying in her school. They are studying Aztec and Mayan cultures.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And for their history and geography section this school term. And I was cleaning the kitchen, and I came across a diorama she had made with her stuffies about a human sacrifice. She had made robes.
Teach her young.
Yes. The head priest is a Hatchimal, and it's got these dead eyes, and she drew a heart which another one of the stuffies is holding.
Oh, my God. That is phenomenal.
She drew a little dagger for another one of the stuffies. And then I brought over this pen holder from England last time I went over there, from London. Mm-hmm. Actually, about a year ago, I brought this over. And essentially it's a pen holder that looks like a body that's just lying on the ground, and there's a place where you just put the pen right into where the heart would be. So that's the victim. It was an equal part incredibly cute and also incredibly disturbing.
It's almost like that scene in Jersey Girl where she does the number from Sweeney Todd.
Yes,
Sweeney Todd.
Oh my God, that is phenomenal.
Such a good part of that movie.
I love it.
Yeah, so I posted some of them on Twitter and on my Facebook page. And it was just really cute, but also in the back of my mind there's like, but yeah, she wants to join in the D&D game right now, so I'm trying to come up with a slightly modified version of the D&D rules so that she and a couple of her friends from school can play.
That's phenomenal.
I mean, they can play right now because I think 5th edition is so friendly.
Yes.
And so the rules are so elegant. But I'm coming up with simplified player character sheets for them.
Gotcha. And I think you and I were hinting on that when we were talking before we were recording. You had mentioned playing Pathfinder, and I love Pathfinder for the depth and the complexity. But when you're in the upper teens and you have a 1-inch binder to play, a simple character, it's like, okay, this is for the heavy hitters. But then 5th edition kind of restored that vibe, that feel, that, and you use the word elegance, and I agree with it wholeheartedly.
That's kind of why.
I mean, and there's so much. Like right now, I'm really loving the storytelling that goes back and forth in the game. And I've learned not to overly prep my games anymore.
Yeah.
Because
you just never know.
Exactly. There's so much the characters will do. Like, I've got a real big surprise for them this game. They all went in to attack the a goblin stronghold the last couple of sessions. And they never said what they did with their horses outside. So
good.
They're going to be snacks.
No.
Bite, munch. That's usually a good...
Even tell us what happens, because they won't ever hear about it.
Well, they're going to hear about it 2 weeks down the road.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, right, that's true. No, so they had a goblin who led them to the castle.
Uh-huh.
And so I've got this whole little scenario set up where the goblin has taken their horses, but then the goblin was attacked he wasn't attacked. He formed an alliance with some hobgoblins who were coming back to the castle, and who saw essentially that the characters had slaughtered everyone. And then they, in turn, got attacked by a couple of ogres. So it's going to be the ogres now have got the goblin tied up. The hobgoblins are dead. But it's going to be this little CSI mystery for the ranger to work out what all of these tracks mean.
I love it.
And I'm just really looking forward to today's session, because it's actually got nothing about it has been written up in the adventure, save for that these hobgoblins are going to return at some point to the to Castle Cragmar.
Uh-huh.
And I love points like this, which just flow off of something the characters have done.
Yes.
To me, this is hugely fun, and I really am so glad to be back DMing again. I love playing, but I got to tell you, DMing is where my mind is, where my heart is.
Go ahead, Tanya.
So, can you come to Rochester and DM for us? Because I have the attention span of a gnat that I have DM'd once, and it's been 5-6 sessions, and I'm like, okay, my ADD's kicked in.
You know what? I've never actually been a player for you when you were a DM. That happened before I came back to your table.
You're probably lucky.
I like to balance. I love to play. I'm like you, John. I love to play, but I also love to DM. Like I said, I have that one game world that I've been tinkering with for about 30 years now, and I always add something to it. And I want to create the ultimate sandbox, because there's no sense in creating an actual plot line, because players are going to do whatever the heck they want to do.
Right.
So if you give them...
In fact, I've actually incorporated this adventure into my own world, which is the one which I had begun when I was last DMing back in the 80s.
Oh, wow.
But I'm I'm actually kind of looking forward to this particular adventure finishing because I've got so much I want to do in this world.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I have all these nooks and crannies, and I hope they discover this. I would love if they could discover this. This would be great. And then they're off somewhere else completely, entirely, other end of the map. So, yeah, that's the lament of the DM right there.
But it's still there for us to discover
Yes, it's still there for you to discover. I'm just wishing you would discover it when you were the same level as the actual item instead of,
Yeah, well.
One of the really nice things is I think it's really revitalized Dork Tower for its 20th anniversary. Because some of the gaming cartooning I've been doing recently, I've been so happy with. And it's come just at the right moment because we started a Dork Tower Patreon. The strip's back on a regular schedule again. It hadn't been for a while because of all the other work I'd been having to do. We're going to be putting out some more collections this year, and we're going to be putting out 20th anniversary editions of the previous collections. But more than anything, just being behind the DM screen again has got me coming up with so many ideas.
Oh, that's great. That's great. See, you love to hear stuff like that because we're all in a community that loves to create things. We want to create adventures. We want to create these moments. We want to create these stories, and I think that's really what the gaming is all about.
One of the real nice things these days, which my 16-year-old self would have loved back in 1980, 1979. I really have loved all of the live play podcasts that are out there. Following them, following a couple, finding ones you like and following them and listening to how other DMs approach things. Being able to get ideas directly from other DMs like that is amazing.
It is.
Even back in the 80s and 90s, and in fact the early aughts, you just couldn't do that. You would, at best you would go to a convention and sit in on some seminars and take notes.
Mm-hmm.
But actually following, other players and other campaigns, you just get so many great ideas for how to run things and how to storytell, how to set up the chapters, how to get the important plot points, make sure that they end the session, having a cliffhanger every now and then. It's just fantastic. It's a great time to be doing this.
It is. I've been watching Critical Role is the one I've been watching the most. And I'm going to pat myself on the shoulder. This spring, summer at the latest, we're actually going to be starting one of our own as part of our podcast series. As in association with our own group, so we're going to be out there doing our own thing. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, nice! Make sure somebody emails me about that. I'd love to listen in.
I absolutely will. Absolutely will.
Absolutely.
And I would love to have your input. So if you ever do catch an episode when we finally get this thing running, and you're like, hey, you should think of this, I would love to hear that. That'd be amazing.
Absolutely. I've only just started listening to Critical Role because I just haven't been to television these days. And I don't say that as any kind of television elitist. There's a ton of television I wish I was watching. But I've just, with my daughter, kids take a lot of time. And as soon as I come home, I'm making supper. My wife works at public radio. And cooking has kind of become my hobby since gaming and cartooning have both become my jobs.
Right.
And then it's cleanup time, and then it's like getting a little more work done afterwards, and then you're exhausted. But ever since Critical Role started podcasting, just doing the audio feeds, I've been following along to that, and it is so great.
It is. They're a lot of fun, and I love how they interact. These people, you can tell they've been together for a long time. They're all friends. They all like to get along, and so they have this dynamic that was created long before the actual podcast began. So they weren't just suddenly thrown together. They weren't auditioned or anything like that, and then now they got the show. They've been together, and you see that vibe, and I think that's one of the best parts about it.
Yep.
Have you listened at all to the podcast Critical Hit?
I have. I'm trying to remember which one that is. I know I have.
It's been around for a while. It started with, I think, 3.5, and it's gone through. And it's neat because when it started out, it was there was one person who had never played before. So taking him through, it's really interesting to listen to. So it's a good one for people who haven't played to see what it's like. But the rest of them are all
right. Yep. And then also after the that's I have listened to that one. Yes, there are just so many of them out there.
Yeah.
And the other thing is there are some great podcasts as well just for the sort of the crunchy stuff, the DM advice podcasts, or one of my very favorite podcasts is run by a couple of friends of mine called Ken and Robin Talk About Stuff, which is the writer and game designers Robin Laws and Kenneth Haidt. And that is just a brilliant podcast to pick up gaming hints and tricks and the like, and just general information.
I'm definitely looking into that.
It's like DM's Guild. Is that the name of another one? But yeah, there's just so much out there between the live play, between oh my God, Critical Hit is up to episode 439.
Yep.
And we can, unfortunately,
there's
it's too much. It's just
God's Fall is a fantastic live play, incredibly well produced, and also very progressive in its social leanings.
Good.
There's one I love called Bored with Life, which is, I love it because that a lot of times is just fun and messy, and it's got people talking over each other. So whereas Critical Role and God's Fall are the games I aspire to run.
Mm-hmm.
Something like Bored with Life is the game I actually run, and I love it because there's swearing and there's mistakes,
yes,
and it's hugely fun.
Oh man! And we can talk about this for millennia. I think probably more than hours.
So we'll have to do a part 2 sometime.
We're gonna have to do a part 2 sometime. I think, John. I think we'll give you a call back and see how the ogres, if they were caught by the CSI or anything along those. We have to.
The plan is that they are going to be caught, but also this is the first time this group of characters is going to. I'm not sure because there's so much. It's like, okay, do the ogres get an owlbear pet? I'm not sure how mean I want to be to them for not really specifying how well they were going to look after the horses.
Then that's clutch. And we will find out about that, because I want to have John back on the show again. I got to have John back on the show again. This has been awesome.
I would love to be back on sometime.
John, would you believe that like 50 minutes have just flown right by?
No way. You are a liar.
I've been called worse by better people. No, I'm
It's going to be time for your characters to storm the castle.
Yep. So you go have fun.
I've got to go and prep for this.
Go do your thing. And thank you, because this has been a lot of fun. And it's great to have like that kindred spirit feeling of the people who've been behind the screen.
Lucky. This is such a great hobby. It is.
It is.
I'm so glad that so many more people are discovering this.
And it feels like it's gone mainstream. It really does. And I'm thinking that's the best thing ever. So yes, we're going to reach out to you again in the future so we can have another chat, because this has been a lot of fun. So for all our listeners, this has been John Kovalic, the man behind the Dork Tower, and
DorkTower.com.
DorkTower.com for 20 years. John, thank you again, and you have a great session today.
Thanks, and same to you guys.
Thank you.
Hope nobody dies.
That's up to me. Remains to be seen.
Take care.
You too, man. Take care.
Thank you.
And we will be back.
Wait.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, and all things in between. That was fun.
That was a great
interview. I like that guy a lot.
I
Holy
so
moly.
want him to come a DM now.
Yeah, seriously. Sherry, great find. That was awesome. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to jump right into to some shout-outs and some business, and we'll start working our way towards the end of the day today. And so our sponsor shout-outs, as always, to our friends at Knox.
Yay!
And Selena's.
Woohoo!
Yay.
And I'm telling you, nothing makes you want and crave a blood orange margarita more than not being able to drink alcohol because you're on antibiotics. I'm just saying. Our gang over on Buffalo Road, First Print Comics.
Woohoo!
The Gate Escape Room.
Yay.
The great.
I said yay.
Yay.
Great escape room.
We had a ball in there. My family went there last summer for a day trip. My wife's brother and nephew were visiting from New Mexico. So
you guys
just
didn't
finding
escape,
things
though,
to do.
dude.
No, we missed it by a couple minutes. We
So you're still
just
stuck in the
missed,
library?
Still stuck.
Yeah, we'll come get you.
Okay.
Because we have to escape from the library
We
still.
have not done the library yet. And then.
I want to do an escape room.
All right, we'll come to town.
So
We'll set it all up. All right. And then Our last sponsor to talk about right now is our friends at Wibbly Wobbly Timey Wimey, bringing all sorts of Doctor Who goodness to you.
Which I have to contact her for a Doctor Who hoodie.
Yes, you have to call her for the hoodie.
They had some cool merch.
They did have a lot of great hoodies.
Well, it's a zip-up hoodie I need.
It's like the one that Dan and I have where you zip it up and it's the outline of the TARDIS.
Yeah,
so
I just got this one.
my mom was asking me about that today, so I have to contact Heather at Wibbly Wobbly.
And now we got a Patreon shout-out.
We do?
We haven't had one in a little
me?
while, and it's not you.
Because I was the last one.
It's Ann.
Ann.
And I'm going to massacre Ann's last name, which is a shame. But it's Ann.
Sherry, can you do it?
Ann Maguli.
Nope.
Ann Maguli, who is one of our own. She's one part of the family, the FC3 family.
We have to support our own.
We are supporting ourselves.
So when are you becoming a Patreon?
Probably after I get my taxes. Because I'm going to probably put a little bit more of investment than $1 a month.
Well, right now I can do $1.
Yeah. So if you want to be a Patreon and you want to have your name shouted out and you want to have access to all sorts of good behind-the-scenes stuff, then go to patreon.com and type in FC3ROC. We have lots of great levels available. Sherry worked very hard on that. And for as low as $1 a month, you'll have access to the director's blogs and some behind-the-scenes and early guest announcements and all sorts of fun stuff. So a mere $12 a year. Come on.
Which we're hoping to have another guest announcements coming pretty soon.
Yeah. I think there's one more coming up with maybe another one waiting in the wings. I don't know offhand.
One or two, something
One or
like
two,
that.
so it's possible.
And then we're going to look at artists also.
Yes, we are. We do have some artists that we're talking to. And then we have our Patreon, our sponsor shout-outs, our Patreon shout-outs, and now we have Apple 5-star reviews to talk about. Ladybug Ann says, funny and informative, makes the workday faster and easier to get through. Thanks! Woo! Ladybug, I love that. That is so sweet.
Funny and informative.
I'm telling you. We funny looking and informative, we got that too.
Well, we laugh a lot.
We do.
And we've
really
been trying to
do.
be more informative, especially when we had our Filk one.
Well, we like to know what we like to sound like we know what we're talking about.
Well, we do.
We do for the most part. I think
That's what the internet's for.
Well, the internet. Well,
we just have to get
every time you say that. You know what pops into my head? Damn you, Tanya.
Katy Perry and
no, the internet is for porn. Anyway,
no,
but I think
it's not.
One of the great things of this crew, and I know the faces at the table have fluctuated over the past year and a half that we've been doing this. But Billy, you and I have been the same, Tanya, and then we have Becca here and Sherry and Chris and Alana, and then Rob and Zach and Dolly. You get all these different perspectives. Everybody has their own kind of like their thing that they love the most. And so it's great to be able to have somebody who can kind of talk about just about anything. And it's great. It's great for me because I don't have to be an expert in everything. I know I can turn to other people. So that's
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Oh, that's like the story of my life. I think that's the subtitle of my autobiography, to be honest.
That's Sherry's writing?
That's Sherry's writing, yes, because her reach is long. So.
You will never forget that.
Oh, no. Come on. I would have been happily as like that would have been one of the stories that just kind of faded into the background that we talk about once in a while. But when Kevin Duhaney, the freaking Blue Ranger, walks up to me, shakes my hand, and says, "No power in the verse can stop Sherry."
Yeah.
That's going to be
just
burned,
wait until the convention weekend.
Burned into my head.
Jake the Snake Roberts is going to DDT you. Put his Python Damien on top of you and go, "Sherry's reach is long."
I know. Seriously, I am so. Don't give her ideas. Do not give her ideas.
Sherry's like, I didn't think of that.
No giving Sherry ideas.
We need Chris to actually walk that weekend. So
she's mad enough at me as it is.
DDT from Jake the Snake. We can't have him do that. Now I have a coworker that is more than willing to take the fall.
We have somebody who's actually volunteering to be power bombed by Jake the Snake.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
So
that would be Sean Stocking.
Yeah. So Sean, you're on the hook for that one.
Yep. He's okay with it.
We got a couple of events coming up. We got
do?
superhero weekends coming up March 24th and 25th, and that will be at the Strong Museum of Play. We're going to be participating there. Right around the corner from where we are sitting right now. And we have our sci-fi quiz March 24th, also that Saturday. Yes. The time is to be decided, but it's going to be in the evening, and that's going to be at Knox
in the
Craft
party room.
Cocktails and Comfort Foods in the party room. But that will be held by us.
Yes. Make sure that you get your FC3 tickets before the sci-fi trivia night or before any event that we hold at Knox, because they will offer discount drink specials and things like that. But you have to have your FC3 tickets first. If you don't have your tickets, we will have some for you on sale when we're there.
There you go. So there you have it.
But get your tickets.
Get your tickets for FC3 ahead of time. Let's see. We have an everyday hero.
We do.
We have everyday heroes this week.
We do.
On this week's Everyday Heroes, we want to give a shout-out to the amazing mother-daughter EMT duo of Shelley and Malia Crum. Did I pronounce Malia right? Did I get that, Malia?
Yeah.
Malia. In addition to being first responders, these amazing ladies also skate for the Central New York Roller Derby under the names of Sinful Pleasures and White Lie. Thank you, ladies, for being our heroes. And remember, not all heroes wear capes. I think that's awesome. That's phenomenal.
No capes.
No capes. And I
capes.
see a note here saying new segment, question of the week. Do we have a question of the week?
It's right there.
Is it? Where am I looking? I'm at the wrong. Okay, here we go. Oh, I found it. Found it in my notes.
Too many pieces of paper for him today.
What is making your geeky little heart happy this week? Billy, what is making your geeky little heart happy this week?
Does it have to be geeky, or can it just be
Just what
something
makes
in
your-
general?
Well,
No.
Sherry, what's your thing about geeky?
Oh, no, basically, it's just, we all have geeky hearts because anything that you love enough is geeky.
Okay.
The question is, Billy, what movie, TV show, book, or album are you currently watching, reading, or listening?
When I got home from work last Sunday, I discovered an album that I have not stopped listening to since. It's a singer-songwriter by the name of Brian Fallon. He was in a band called Gaslight Anthem, a rock and roll band, sort of Springsteen-esque. And he's got a couple solo albums out. His newest one was released a couple Fridays ago, and I downloaded it, and it's amazing. And he's coming to Rochester soon, and I'm going to see him. And
it hasn't left your CD player since then.
It has not. I've listened to this. I've listened to the whole thing maybe 10, 15 times.
Nice.
And it's an amazing album. Brian Fallon's Sleepwalkers album. I highly recommend it.
Okay. I think that's a good thing. Tanya, how about you? What's making your geeky little heart happy today?
Oh, I've got lots of different things. I saw Black Panther Friday night, and I'm in the process of currently reading Ready Player One.
Okay.
To get ready for
the movie
and things like that. And I'm just enjoying just the 80s references and the references to Asterix Tomb of Horrors.
Oh, God, yeah.
That's in there. Being actually a player that's gone through that several
been
times.
by...
Been victimized by several DMs in that, and knowing to stay away from the sphere of annihilation.
My wife read that book a couple years ago when it first came out, and she keeps saying that I would love it.
Yeah, it's definitely 80s geeky references and everything. And
it's awesome.
It is really awesome. When I saw the preview, I can't remember which movie I went to see a couple weeks ago, maybe, I don't know, but I saw the preview for Ready Player One. I had no clue that it was Ready Player One because I really hadn't gotten into the book yet. Mm-hmm. So now it's starting to make a little more sense.
Okay.
So
there you go.
That's me.
And things that make sense, that's usually something that eludes us.
Yes.
Yeah. Chris, how about you? What's making your geeky little heart happy today?
That would be Chris S., not Chris Frank.
Well, yeah. Since I'm not talking to myself for a change of pace.
Well, started reading Saga.
Okay.
I've already done the first, and just about start second.
Fiona Staples' masterpiece there.
See what else. We also been watching Green Arrow.
Okay.
Arrow.
Yes, me too.
I have to catch up on that. Like I've said several times, I have not caught up on any of my CW shows.
I haven't even watched Flash yet.
Yeah.
And,
well, you're in for a treat. That's a fun one.
Second season.
A Flash?
Too many things.
Yeah.
Not enough time.
Oh, I know.
I was going to say, DC Legends of Tomorrow will be brought back in first week of March, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
The big problem is I watched Flash back in the 90s, and I've been waiting to watch this.
Gotcha. So. How about you, Sherry?
I'm currently reading Jenny Lawson's Furiously Happy, which is I'm really enjoying it. She is better known online as the Bloggess. She is a longtime blogger. If you've ever read her blog at all, you'll understand references like don't bring any more towels into this house and Beyonce the giant metal chicken.
Would be don't bring any more T-shirts into our house.
Oh, man. That's good.
I want T-shirts.
I love it.
Did you have to give up a T-shirt room lately in your house?
No, there's a new cat in my T-shirt room.
Yeah, hanging out.
Yeah, it's afraid to leave that room.
Aw.
So I'm currently reading her second book. Her first book was called Let's Pretend This Never Happened. And so the second one is Furiously Happy. She is an amazing woman, an amazing writer, funny as hell, very honest about her mental issues, and is a wonderful advocate for people with problems of their own. And she's just incredible. I'm really enjoying the book very much.
Very cool. Very cool. Monkey Monk, how about you, Sweet Pea?
The two things I'm keeping up on right now is I'm listening to the podcast Heroes and Villains.
Okay.
Bruce Leslie is the host. He's the one that runs the show. I'm enjoying it. There are just two moments that so far that have aggravated me, but those were some pretty early on. He's like over 200 episodes.
Oh boy.
So I'm hoping it's just his early stuff that he's making those sort of comments.
You want to tell us about the comments?
The first one was he was talking about how he didn't have a female listener base. It started off with going, "Oh, hey, ladies and gentlemen," like he was like talking to all of them. And he's like, "Well, no, just gentlemen." And he's like, "Wait, no." He had a woman on to talk about a character with, and he's like, and she other than her, she's really the only woman listening. And I'm like, hey.
So you set him straight, right?
That's it. Clear that air.
And then the other one was I was listening to his Winter Soldier one. It was before the movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
And he said something about how pseudo-nerds only watch the movies.
Gotcha.
And I had to stop. I was cleaning my grandfather's house at that time, and I had to stop for a moment. I was mopping the floor, and I had to go, no.
So you start shouting at things.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, she's not my daughter.
And Chris?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I forgot Becca. Becca.
I saved Becca for last because I know that what she's going to be talking about is something that we're actually going to be
leading into our
is going to lead up to our podcast next week.
Okay.
So Becca, go ahead and
proceed that big one with one thing I'm actually really excited about.
Uh-huh.
So, what was it again?
I don't know.
The live-action film for Full Metal Alchemist is finally coming out on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
So I'll finally get to see that.
Good.
I'm excited.
But your big thing that you've been like every time we talk about making things happy, you're holding your notes there for next week's podcast.
Ooh, I've got my notes.
What are we talking about next week?
Voltron Season 5 is coming out March 4th.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're gonna be having a little chat next week about Voltron, the animated series, in both of its original 1980s form and in the current form, and we're gonna be pointedly ignoring all of the little the failed mishaps along the way.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the third dimension.
The third dimension.
Voltron Force.
Voltron Force. All that crap.
Yeah. We're gonna play around with some fun
Beast Lion,
theories.
Ghost Lion.
We're gonna talk. How about the chartreuse lion? I'm in for the chartreuse pink polka dot lion. Anyway, and then me.
Yeah, Chris, what makes you happy this week?
Right now, I got to tell you, I'm having fun as a DM at the table because I've got the every other Sunday game that I've been at the table, but now I've picked up steam on an email campaign that I've been doing.
Killed a baby.
Stop it. With that's what you think I did,
and that's not even in the game.
I'm telling you. I'm not even going into stuff on real life at the moment. But I got an email campaign with producer Sherry and her husband Chris, the guys who are on the phone with us right now, and so it's fun to be able to. I've had this game world that I've created like 30 years ago, and I've been tweaking it and adding to it and kind of writing notes for it, and to have these two different groups in two different places.
So when have we crossed?
You have not crossed yet. They're still relatively new in their campaign yet, and you're still far enough away from each other. You're on the same continent. I'll tell you that much.
That's good.
You guys, your table, Tanya, is about 2 months ahead of them at the moment.
Okay.
Because they're still at the tail end of the year. You guys have gotten into the new year at this point. So you guys haven't seen what they have and vice versa.
So we're their future.
Well, for now. But the great thing about D&D is that you can do a 3-hour walk in 5 seconds, and a 5-second battle takes 3 hours.
Yes.
That's the thing about D&D.
Yes.
That's timeology in D&D there.
Do you guys take I don't know, 6 days to go through one thing?
Yeah, well, that's because of the fact that your mother and I think we would email maybe 2 or 3 times a day. And so we were going through this really long and involved day, and it took us almost a week to get through that single day.
Well, yeah, because email, whatever.
Email, exactly. So, if we were at the table, we probably would have been able to fly through that in about an hour or two, but you never know. So that's the thing. But did you imagine back in the day when John Kovalic was first playing D&D and when I was first playing D&D, email didn't exist.
No.
People would actually play by mail. Like snail mail. They would send letters to each other describing their actions, and the DM would then just send snail mail back.
Oh my God, that would kill me.
It would take months to just do
that would kill me.
A day-long interaction. Can you imagine how that's evolved at least?
Oh. And now there's like Skype and everything. So,
yeah, seriously.
So you can,
we'll be doing some other things in the future. It's good stuff. So that's great. This was a great episode. Mike, I had fun today. This was a lot of fun today.
You don't have fun any other day?
There are days where it's a little more work than others, but that's just, that's
it's work.
That's the thing. That's the thing about being a host is you got to kind of be on your game all the time, even when you're tired and on medicines and stuff like that. But, oh well, moving on.
And now your favorite part.
There it is. And this has been Monkey Business. Hey, product.
Sherry wants this for both beginning and end.
Yeah, I hate you. Where are we? Oh, this is a product of the Mighty Monkey Corporation, the purveyors and producers of the Flower City Comic Con. Coming at you June 9th and 10th, 2018 at the Floriano, Rochester Riverside Convention Center. Like us on Facebook. Love us on Facebook. Follow us on Patreon. www.facebook.com/FC3ROC. We'll see you next week. Bye.
You were so channeling your inner inflatable man for
Stop
Dolly
it.
just a second ago.
Whee! There goes the arms. Anyway.
There you go, Dolly. That's for you.
I'm going to go lay down and take a nap now.